Hey everyone, it's Carter King. If you're an educator, a leader, or just a parent who wants to teach kids about space, check out my newest book, Carter's Journey Through Space. It's available now on Amazon, Target, and bookstores everywhere. Come explore the universe with me.
Welcome to another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle King, and the goal of this podcast is simple: to help you create environments where people thrive. Through real conversations, practical strategies, and powerful stories, we equip leaders, educators, and change makers just like yourself to build cultures rooted in purpose, performance, and authenticity. Because culture isn't something you talk about, it's something you live. This is the Contagious Culture Podcast. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle King, and the goal of this podcast is to help you create ecosystems and environments where people thrive. Hey, look, culture doesn't break with a headline. It breaks quietly. One meeting where someone stops speaking up. One high performer who stops trying. One leader who carries too much alone. And today I'm sitting down with a friend of mine, somebody that is killing it in this space. Amy, she's everything that you would want in a leader. She is an author. She is a speaker. She's the kind of culture builder who can translate belonging from a buzzword into something you can measure, lead, and sustain. And what we're going to be talking about today is not only her work in these corporate spaces, but how her new book is transforming not just teams, but how we approach and live our lives. Amy, how are you doing?
I'm good. Hello.
I'm
Good
amazing.
morning. Thank you for having me. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. Wow. I appreciate that very much. Thank
Of
you.
course. Let me start with this question. When people meet you, Amy, what do you hope people feel within the first 2 minutes?
Oh, well, one of my nicknames is Sunshine because I'm constantly smiling. So, like, first is just like good. Like, you just know, like, the energy is good. The vibe is going to be fine. I want people to feel safe, like, comfortable, I guess. I want people to walking away like, wow, she's a good human. that's,
And why is
that's,
that important to you?
um, because everybody should feel, well, I want to be a person who makes other people feel better for having been around me. You know what I mean? I don't want to be one of those people where it's like Debbie Downer. Like you're like, oh God, we have to go talk to Amy. I don't want to be that person. So when you talk about, I mean, it's literally in the title of your podcast, I want to be someone who is contagiously positive. I don't want to be a person who is radiating anything but positive energy in the world as much as I can. Now I'm not perfect, obviously, but when people and I want to affect people's lives in a positive way because that doesn't do anything but help everybody else be better.
I love that. And, before the titles, author, director of belonging, consultant, who were you as a kid?
Oh my gosh. This is going to be hard to believe for people in this time in my life, but I was really shy.
Uh, no
I
way.
was shy. I was shy for a period of time. All of the like girl young insecurities that you have,
Yeah.
braces, my eyebrows weren't done. I was this one big brow. But I was an athlete too. So I played soccer for 15 years. I sang in my childhood and through into college. Mostly classically trained in a choral music, but like that was it. I was playing soccer, I was singing, I was swimming in the summertime. I was outside just having friends, all the things. But I had a lot to learn. I was young. I was a young age. My birthday's in September, so I wasn't like my parents decided not to keep me. So I was like 4 starting kindergarten. I was 17 in my senior year of high school and didn't turn 18 until college. So I was always like the young one. So that was me as a kid. I had a lot to learn. I had a lot of maturing to do and a lot to learn about how life works.
Yeah. What was that first moment though for you as you were growing into the woman that you are today, into the professional that you are today? That was that slingshot moment that either woke you up or helped you
Mhm.
realize that, hey, there's so much more in front of me that I want to go after.
Oh man, I'd say there's two moments. You know me, Kyle. It's hard for me to pick one thing. I'd say there's two moments. The first was when I had the opportunity to sing overseas with my high school choir. We did it twice, actually.
Wow.
And I was fortunate enough to be able to do it both times. The
Yeah.
first time we went to London and Paris. And that was my first experience leaving the United States, like leaving my surroundings. Again, through soccer, I had gone up and down the East Coast for soccer tournaments, but I'd never left the country. And to get perspective, like the world is bigger, to have that feeling that, like, wow, like there's so much we haven't seen and experienced.
Yeah.
That was definitely a slingshot moment. And then the second time I got to, we did a tour through Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, which I'm sure you can imagine was another amazing experience. But it's just getting all of those different cultural experiences and understanding how different people live across the world was definitely a slingshot. Like, wow, like I'm
Amazing.
small and there's way more for me to learn and do. I'd say the second, which was more of an internal slingshot moment, was when I went through the experience of becoming a part of my sorority, and learning the amount of strength, the amount of inner strength that I have, and building on that from parents and whatnot, like learning more about their experiences and knowing the legacy of strength that we have in our family as women. That really, those two moments were definitely slingshot moments early on.
It's interesting.
One at 15, 17, and 19. It was like
Yeah.
every other year. Yeah.
It's interesting that you brought up those 2 points because in my life, I believe that I studied abroad in Ghana when I was in college.
Mm,
And I don't talk about this story enough, but that I believe was the first major slingshot moment for me,
hmm
and seeing different cultures, and it changed me. And I came back and I started the nonprofit because I wanted to be able to create, and that led me down a path to wanting to serve, especially within the educational field.
Yep.
And you talked about exposure, but then you also talked about inner strength. And I think about my other slingshot moment was it really tested. It made me more battle tested and really
Yeah.
helped me understand how strong I was internally. Why are those two things so important in regards to exposing ourselves to a multitude of cultures and opportunities in a world outside of ourselves, but then also the importance of understanding how strong and capable we are inside?
Yeah. I, you can't help other people feel strong and feel connected and learn more about others unless you've done it for yourself. It's like, how great of a parent could you be if you hadn't had experiences to be able to share and help your kids learn? It's the experiential part.
Yeah.
I can't help someone understand what it's like to go to a different country if I hadn't been to a country. I can't understand how to teach someone or help someone learn about their inner strength if I hadn't done it myself. It's like you have to do the work.
Yeah.
And so for me, realizing my strength, and then learning more about how all encompassing that can be, because your strength is tested.
Oh, definitely.
Even though you realize, like, okay, I'm strong, there are moments that continue to come along your way. I mean, I've experienced the loss of both of my parents already. I have, gone through Alzheimer's battles, kidney disease for my, with my parents, my grandparents. I've had divorce, like things have happened. And if I had not realized the inner strength that I had to get through those moments, knowing that there was more on the other side, that is what can break people.
That's good.
And so I think that is definitely a big part in the beginning of it. You have to have that foundation. You have to have if you're building a house, you don't start with the roof. You got to start at the foundation. You got to build something for support. And that's the support. That's like the safety net, is realizing and trusting in your own strength.
That's an interesting concept, because you work with leaders.
Mm-hmm.
You specifically work in the field of belonging culture. You are an expert in this field of DEI work as well. Do you believe that better leaders are the ones that have experienced the various things that their teams are experiencing? Or do you believe it's possible for you to be a great leader without having experienced those various challenges that your team is going through?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there can be great leaders despite having not faced challenges, while at the same time, because you know me, two things can be true.
Oh, yeah.
While at the same time, I think, I don't know if better is the right word. I would say if they're able to have more perspective in living, it's the empathy part, not so much better, but they have more empathy. They have the ability to tap in and connect to what they may have gone through for better advice on how to get through it. It doesn't mean that they won't be able to lead someone through a difficult time, or feel that challenge. That may be their challenge, like, how do I lead someone through something I've never experienced before? That in itself is a challenge. And so, sometimes you have to tap into other parts of yourself. It might not be the same experience, but you may have something similar, or you may have encountered somebody who shared that with you and you learned from them. So you draw on that experience. So I think it's possible. I do think, obviously, it's a different layer of empathy and perspective when you yourself have obviously gone through something, and then are leading others through those challenges at work.
The cool thing about your career is that, similar to mine, is that you started in education and you moved into corporate America.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What did you learn about, I guess, let's say, humans in schools or in the educational field that still shows up in boardrooms?
Yeah, when I was in education, so for the audience, I was a high school assistant principal and teacher. So I was in the secondary education environment for 17 years. And moving into the corporate environment, I remember one of the questions in my interview was, how do you think you're going to be able to, transfer this work? And I said, humans are humans. Children and adults are both insecure in various situations. Children and adults both have to be coached. Children and adults both need structure. Children and adults, like, you're human, like, we're all human. Yes, do children, and I say children, under 18, have really under 25, let's be real, have maybe more inhibitions, less life experiences. I would say the difference, if there was one, is adults, because they've lived more life experiences, have a little bit more caution and anxiety around trying new things, versus kids that are like, dive right in. That's why all of these students out here at 16, they're making like sustainable water systems for other countries and apps that would take us 10 years to build, they can do in 2 months, because they don't, their imaginations are still going. And I think as adults, there's just more constraints because we're thinking about how those things affect, if we have kids, if we have, livelihoods to protect, we're thinking about our future incomes and all, as that would be the distinction, I would say, in leading adults versus leading children or students. Is students are just, they feel more free because they have less boundaries for what they're able to do. Versus an adult that has, you've got some boundaries, got some constraints. You can't just say, like, you know what, I think I'm gonna sleep in my car for the next 2 months. Like, kids will literally be like, I don't care, it's fine. Like, that's how they work these days. But we can, we can't do that. We have people to take care of, including ourselves.
That's an interesting perspective. And when I hear the word belonging, I think about a lot of different things and a lot of synonymous words. And I think in my biased opinion, educators make some of the best team members as well as leaders in corporate America, because if we can differentiate and learn how to work with students, it makes us more valuable in corporate spaces. If we can develop lesson plans and teach at a high level, it lets us be, it helps us become better in learning and development and coaching and training and
Yeah.
developing.
Yeah.
And I think that the industry of educators is looked at not as valuable, but I will say this publicly, I think we would run circles around a lot of the trainers that are in a lot of these corporate spaces. So when you hear the word, though, belonging, what do you want people to stop assuming?
That it's a thing you can say and it'll happen.
Tell me more.
So when people talk about belonging, like, we want to create an environment of belonging here at X company, we really value our people. And then you don't see anything, you don't experience anything, you don't hear anything. Like, you can't just say this is a safe space and walk out the room. Or you can't say, like, we really value belonging here and inclusion at our business, and then you have nothing to show for that, you know? And I've said this before, I think in our previous conversation, when I hear the word belonging, I want people to know that that is an action word, just like love. Like, love, you can't say, like, oh, I love you, and then do nothing. It's action and communication at the same time, because you can't have belonging unless people trust you. And if you haven't built trust in your organization, belonging is never going to, you're never going to feel like, oh, I belong here. If you don't feel like you can trust the people you work with.
How do you go about building trust, though? Or let's take this a step deeper. How do you rebuild trust if it's broken?
Ooh. Go to therapy. No. And an organization I would say, as an organization, as a team, that's tough. I would say the first thing you have to do is start, in my opinion, again, two things. You got to start with honesty, and you got to start with vulnerability. You got to be willing to be open, honest, and vulnerable, and forthright. You know, you have to be proactive, not reactive. You have to, reassure, because when you've lost someone's trust, if you're not reassuring them constantly until they start to believe you again, that you can't. So that's where it begins.
Yeah.
And it's no different than when you're building a relationship. You know, you have to invest the time and really be authentic and real about it. If you're fake, if you're, not being forthright, if you're waiting for someone else to come to you before the conversation begins, like, all of those things will just perpetuate the problem.
When I think about belonging, and even I love how you said it's an action similar to love. And I remember the first time that I heard love is action. This was years ago. It made me really rethink, one, saying it out loud.
Sure.
But then holding myself and others accountable. Like, hey, if you're communicating that you love this thing, whether it's a person, whether it's a sport, whether it's anything, then
your job, yeah.
What are the actions in response? Like, how are you showing that you love that thing, or that person, or that job? But when you think about belonging, if you had, let's say, to pick 3 levers that move belonging the fastest, what are they?
Building relationships, doing what you say you're going to do, and letting people be who they are. If you aren't allowing people to be who they are fully, and they don't know that it's okay to do that, then belonging will never exist. If you've set up an environment where at some point someone feels judged for who they are, or what they said in a meeting, or they made a mistake and someone corrected them and it was, inappropriate, any of those kinds of things, that's that last piece. Letting people be who they are authentically, professionally, right? Because I want to make that distinction in the workplace. Um, I think I've had to do some coaching with our younger population about what the word authentic means at work.
Definitely.
It doesn't mean you can't be yourself,
Yeah.
but obviously at work, you have to be professional. And
Exactly.
here's what that looks like. It doesn't mean water yourself down.
Yeah.
But there's parameters obviously in different places as we talk about culture.
Yeah.
But yeah, relationships, definitely building relationships, doing what you say you're going to do. That's that action and words piece, and letting people be who they are. If those three things, that is, it will take off as
What
long
does
as
it
you
look
are
like?
consistency. Because if you're not consistent, if you don't keep doing those things, then you're going to go backwards.
Let's say somebody's listening in and they say, I've heard this before, building relationships. I've heard letting people be who they are. I've heard delivering essentially on promises that you make and honoring those commitments. I've heard
Mm-hmm.
consistency. Hey, it's Kyle. Sorry to interrupt your programming, but I got a quick culture check for you. How's your team's energy right now? I mean, literally, right now. Are people feeling inspired? Or are they just showing up? See, here's the truth. Culture doesn't change because we talk about it. It changes because we live it actively every single day. And that's what I help organizations do. Build contagious cultures that people actually want to be a part of. Through keynote talks, interactive trainings, and hands-on consulting, I help leaders transform the way their teams connect, perform, and grow. So if your culture needs a little bit of spark, let's light it up together. Visit theculturelab.org, again, theculturelab.org, or connect with me directly on LinkedIn at Kyle S. King to learn more about how we can work together. Because remember, your culture is contagious. Make it worth catching. Now let's get back to the program. But what does this look like in practice on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. So I'll speak specifically to the time that I had when I was head of D&I for Paycor. I was the first to be hired into the role. October of 2020, the thick of everything, right? COVID, post George Floyd, post everything. And it did not exist as a formal unit at Paycor. And so building ground up, it in practice, it means you have got to dive into your organization and find out what's really going on, which means not just asking people, right? Anecdotally, what is the data telling you? What are the demographics of your business? What are the goals? Is the C-suite saying that they want for their organization? What are the guiding principles? Are they living those principles? How do you know that? Like it's like a huge data dive piece, and then it's strategically figuring out what are the things that have to be moved first. And obviously, with our background in education, no one even knew what the words meant. Like there were several leaders that didn't understand, they couldn't define the words diversity, equity, and inclusion, or belonging, or, any of those, people will say buzzwords, but they didn't know what it meant. And so if you're not educating around what the words mean, you can't use the words and act on them. So we literally, like the very first thing I did, we had a live, important, not virtual, not digital, online, do it myself training. I said, nope, we're doing this live. Every single leader in the business that had people underneath them was required to attend a 1-hour foundational training that I did for them, on what is this and what are we going to do with this? What is the strategy for the business? What does this look like for you? What is your next step? Here's where we can come in and help you, like all of those things. That was where we started. Because the business, like many other businesses that are focused on, and truly are focused on wanting to become or be more diverse over time, want to start with talent. They want to start like, let's go find all the diverse people in the world. Yeah. And it was no different. It was like, when can we start, really building on this? And I said, it's going to be a golden rotating door if we don't make people feel like they're comfortable here, and they can't feel comfortable if the people don't know what the words mean. So we have to build the supports around them and make sure that there's things for all of the people. So like that means bringing in your ERG networks. That means providing different events, allowing people to use their voice, be heard. We did focus groups to hear, like, what is it that's missing? What do you feel like we need? Because you can't tell people what they need. You have to ask them. So all of those things was how we started and what it looks like in practice. And then you just build from there, because every year things might be different, which it was. Every year the needs changed. As we grew, we went from 1,800 to 3,000 employees in a year and a half. So like it just depends. But I'm not saying this to be vain. I'm saying this for evidence for the audience that in the 5th year of being there, we were in the top 10 companies for diversity, equity, inclusion for Intergage top workplaces. Wow. So it happens, and it can happen quickly, but your business, your strategy, your data, your inputs, and your intentions have to all come together for that to happen. I was grateful to work for a business and people in leadership that were willing to support that.
One of the things that I love about education is that it's data driven, and companies are data driven as well. But education, we look at data before we move students out of classrooms, before we build out a curriculum map or pacing. Like, every decision is built upon data.
Yeah.
But with belonging, with DEI, with this work, what are some of the metrics that people usually use to track if it's improving, if it's not? Like, how do you measure this type of work?
So I'm doing employee listening now. So I work for a new business that actually acquired Paycor. So Paycor is still out here, still Paycor business unit. Doing employee listening, I would say one of the biggest pieces is you have to ask people how they feel, and that is a measurement. So, do I feel a sense of belonging? Do I feel included? What do I want to say? Do I want to work here anymore? Like, have I thought about leaving the business? But then it's also looking at trend data for various groups. And it doesn't mean that you're singling people out. I want to be very clear about this, because this is a big sticking point politically about like separation and, inclusion is not inclusion. It means figuring out what people need to feel okay at work. And you can't do that if you're not looking at various populations. So that means age, military, LGBTQ plus, all of the various cultural populations, religion. We actually looked at religion because we built a global interfaith calendar because it helped when people had business meetings, like, for example, when Ramadan is going on and people are fasting and or aren't eating at different times of the day or whatever that is. Like, if you don't have that awareness and people are in meetings and they're talking about food the whole time, you're like, it's super insensitive, in various scenarios. So it really was about like, just how are all of these people interacting and all these different questions? What is our norm, right? Like, because you have to find what is that average? What is the normal person at the business feeling based on the data? And you can get that in a graph, right? And then how do you compare to that? How does each population compare to that bell curve average? Are they below? Are they significantly below? Are they significantly above? Why? And so those measures and in asking the questions that are pertinent to your business are going to tell you where you need to move.
When you think of something that leaders need to accept, or let me ask this differently, what's one hard truth about leadership that you wish more executives would accept?
You're not going to make more money unless you focus on people first.
Oh, talk more about that.
It's a hard truth. It's like the chicken and the egg. I think for leaders that are, leaders that are executives and building companies. It's the chicken and the egg, because you can't take care of people in a business if you don't have the money to take care of the people, but you can't make the money if you don't take care of the people, right? So it's like chicken and the egg. Well, it's got to be the people first, because if the people aren't engaged, I mean, I'm always going to say that, but if the people aren't engaged, if the people aren't focused, if the people don't feel like they can be themselves, they're not going to be creative. Their brains, I mean, we all know when you're under stress, when you're under anxiety, your brain literally turns off. Your executive functioning, all of the decisions in the front of your head are done. Like you can't even try to be creative because you're literally just thinking about survival the whole time. So if you're not in a place where people feel safe to be creative, to be innovative, to produce for you, then you're not going to be able to build capital for your business. It's human capital first, and then money. The money will come. The money will come.
I like that you said that word safety. And I find that when that comes up, I always like to highlight that word, because if we're not psychologically, emotionally safe within any space, we're not even going to feel empowered or courageous enough to be able to show up as our best selves.
Yeah.
Whether you're in an intimate relationship, whether you're kids, whether a teacher and a principal, in any space, if you are not psychologically or emotionally safe, it's going to be challenging for you to be able to perform your best. Sure. What is 2 practical things that someone can do that is listening in today, that runs a team, that is a leader, to be able to create psychological safety within their team or within their ecosystem?
Don't just say it, right? So we've said this already. Don't just say it. You have to model it. And by modeling psychological safety, that means you yourself have to become vulnerable and share parts of yourself with other people so that they know it's also safe for them to share parts of themselves with you. That would be my first piece of practical advice. The second is you have to release judgment and lead with curiosity. So you can't, like, staying curious doesn't mean like I'm in judgment of who you are, or I'm in judgment of the things you're saying to me, or when you make a mistake, I'm gonna crucify your what you've done.
Yeah.
If I stay curious, then I'm going to ask questions about it and really genuinely want to know how to be better as a leader for you. Those 2 things, in my opinion, have helped create that safety. For others out there, I would also say, if I had to tack on a third piece, it's kind of a sidecar, which is like patience is really important. Not everybody moves at the same speed. And so you may feel safe, but other people on your team may not yet, because everybody has gone through their own experiences. They've gone through, they may have stuff that has nothing to do. What did Don Miguel Ruiz say? Don't take things personally, because what other people say or do has nothing to do with you. No. It's nothing to do with you. So like what other people are going through, you may not know, and staying patient while being curious is important. Some things might move fast. You might have a team where everybody's like, here's me, and they just blah, it's all out there, but you might not have that team, and that's okay. You have to be willing to invest that time.
Staying patient and staying curious. I like that. It's like, be patient because we don't understand the pace of everyone. While in the patience, though, remain curious to understand and empathize what people need in this process. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not staying curious, and this is something that we actually practice in our business right now. We're doing a whole culture refresh across our business of 19,000 employees, and staying curious is one of the key parts of the trainings that we're doing with our leaders.
I love that.
Yeah.
We're going to switch it up. I want to do a rapid fire exercise. So I'm going to give a statement.
Okay.
And I want you to just finish the statement for me. I have a few statements that I wrote down.
Okay.
I'm interested to see how you would respond to these various statements. Number one, you ready?
I think so.
Number one is belonging is.
Belonging is a feeling of safety and security, no matter who you are in any location.
That's good. Okay. All right. Next one. A culture killer is.
Dishonesty. Dishonesty.
We'll unpack that one. One phrase I wish leaders would retire today is.
Oh God. Whew. Gosh, oh my God, that's so hard. One phrase I wish leaders would retire. A phrase?
Or a belief.
I'd say it's, oh my God, there's so many things going through my head right now. One thing that leaders would retire, I would say a belief. I'll go back to what I said before, which is assuming that you can have success without taking care of your people.
Okay, we'll go with that one. Okay. All right, next one. A habit that builds trust fast is.
Vulnerability.
I figured that one.
Yeah.
And this is an easy one. What's a book or a podcast that you're absolutely loving right now?
Oh my gosh. So I got to be honest, because I just finished writing my book. I haven't had the mental space to read a recent one, but I knew you were going to ask me about books. So I grabbed 3 of my favorites.
Let's go. Let's go.
Okay. So obviously I have to plug my own, which is Healing Division.
Yeah.
Balancing Empathy and Power. So definitely go get that one. This one is a root from my, when I got my master's, my second master's degree in administration, Leading in a Culture of Change by Michael Fullen.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. It's you see all the flags in the, this one, I think there's a newest, there's new editions that come out. So there's a newer one. The cover is different.
Okay.
But I refer to this all of the time. It's just it's so good. And it's one of those like timeless ones.
Yeah, of course.
You can go back to it over and over again. And this might turn some of the Michigan fans off, but love the line. So here's the thing. Here's what I will say about this. It's not about Urban Meyer. It's not. Yeah. And I know that this particularly, he's using, his experience as the Ohio State football coach. Having said that, it's the person he worked with, which was, it wasn't Mike Rutherford. What is his name? I always forget his name. He's actually passed away now, but he created the E+R=O system. If you've never heard of that. So it's infused in all of I know of at least 5 to 10 different school districts in my area that are using this to build culture in their schools. So this is the framework. E+R=O, event plus response equals outcome. And so the theory is, and I have a piece to add on to that, of course, but you can't control an event that happens. You cannot control the outcome. All you can do is control your response to it.
E+R=O. I like that.
Now I would also add E+R+L=O. And the reason I'm saying that is because even though you can control your response, it doesn't mean you've learned anything. So I would add you control your response, but if you haven't learned why you responded in the way that you did, or why that event is, you have to do the learning behind it so that you don't do it again, or so that you can explain it to someone else. And here's where I'm going with that. If let's say you have an event in an environment and someone says something offensive about someone else.
Yeah. So
there's the event. It's offensive and you were present to hear it and you knew it was wrong. Your response is, hey, let's shift the topic of conversation, or you make a joke. So you've changed the outcome, but what did you learn? Like, do you know why that was offensive? Did you ask the person, right? Did you lead with curiosity? Did you ask the person who was offended why it was offensive?
That's good.
So for me, if I had to add in a layer, I would say E plus R plus L equals O. But the system, that's actually what this book is about.
I'm gonna read that one. It's called Hold
Yeah.
the Line.
Above the line.
Above the line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Above the line behavior. So and then there's a whole lot more that goes into it, but he hired a person, and it's literally, my mind is blank right now, but I'm going to send it to you when we get off. It's going to come right back, because he has a whole the business is called Focus 3. Is the consultant that leads the work, Focus 3 is who he worked with, and real good stuff. I
like that,
especially for culture building.
Amy, this has been phenomenal. I knew it would be, though. Always. What is one project that you're working on or have recently launched that you are most excited about?
Well, I mean, I have to say, obviously, the book is an experience. It's and it's fresh on top of my brain because it just launched in November. So if you're out there and you want to read it, it's on Amazon. It's on Ingram Spark. So really excited about that project, and hopefully the impact that it could have over time. The other thing I'm doing is building employee listening strategy for the business that I'm working in now, and hoping that has a long-term impact for building trust at a time where we are integrating two businesses, it's the largest. Paycor was the most recent largest acquisition for this business, and so I'm hopeful that will help people feel better at work over time, that their voices are heard, that actions are being taken. It's a big body of work, along with working with my team on the culture refresh and making sure that our leaders are infusing our values and our principles and what we're calling the 5 startups moving forward. So those are the biggest pieces, I'd say, from a work perspective. As we start winding down, I'm really looking forward to shutting my brain completely off for the next 2 weeks. But there's a lot of work that we're going to be doing as we move forward and trying to make teams feel included, culture is embedded, so that we can continue to be successful.
Amy, if you could put one sentence on a billboard for all leaders, what would it say?
Oh my gosh, Kyle. It's gotta be lead with empathy and realize your power. I don't because I think there is an assumption that you can't have one without the other, that two can't, because two things can be true. I think there's an assumption that to be powerful means that you have to leave people in the dust, or you can't be empathetic. And then there's an assumption that you can't be empathetic. You can't be an empathetic leader and be powerful. Like, if you're too empathetic, then oh boy, like, we're not going to go anywhere. I think it's lead with empathy and realize your power.
That's good. Amy, where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram, at the Amy Official, I think is what it is. Amy Hull Official, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn is probably the most accessible. It's just my name, so that's super easy. And then amyehall.com is the website, so you can go there. You can link to the book and find out more. Those are all the ways. You just have to know my name, Kyle.
That's it.
That's it. Nothing fancy.
This has been a phenomenal conversation, truly, and I appreciate, as always, you give me your heart, you give me your wisdom, you telling your story, and anybody listening right now. And if you lead a team, I want to give you a challenge for the next, 7 days. I want you to pick one ritual, one thing that Amy mentioned, and I want you to run the play. And I want you to watch what changes. I want you to watch what happens. And when it happens, I want you to reach out to Amy and give her a testimonial.
That would
And
be awesome.
for people who not just want to follow your work, but bring you in or connect with you, what's one thing that they can expect if working with you?
Oh man, I mean, just the energy that you got today. I mean, this is what you see is what you get, I think is the best thing to say. Um, there will be energy. I will make sure, well, for me, it's about meeting people where they are. That's the educator in me. So it's not going to be a cookie cutter, which I think a lot of people are nervous about, especially when you've written a book. People are like, oh, she's going to be book pushing, not necessarily, because everyone's scenario is different. So I think I would be listening. First of all, I would be asking questions and listening, but I'm always going to bring this energy to the room, and try to be as positive as possible.
If anybody's listening, and if this episode sharpened your leadership, I want you to send it to one leader who needs it. I want you to leave a quick review, and I want you to help travel this message to the person, to the company, and to the institution that truly needs it. And I want you to build it on purpose, and I want you to build it contagiously. And one of the questions that we always ask is, what type of culture are you spreading? The energy you bring is the culture you create. Make yours worth catching. It's another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast. I am here with amazing Amy Hull. And look, like, subscribe, share this episode, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Contagious Culture Podcast. If this episode challenged or inspired you, hey, take a second to share it with someone who's building culture in their world. Make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps more leaders, educators, and change makers just like yourself join the movement. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or YouTube at Kyle S. King for more tips, tools, and methodologies to be able to help you create this ecosystem of absolute excellence. Until next time, lead boldly, live intentionally, and remember, your culture is contagious. Make it worth catching.